Meaningful work gives children a sense of belonging. Sounds pretty great. But how do we get it? How do we help our kids embody that? How do we give them meaningful work in our homes that helps them contribute meaningfully to the home culture? Hi, I'm Joy, and this month I'm talking a lot about getting our kids off of screens and trying to get them outside. And I actually have a guide down below, one for moms and a free one for children if you want to check it out. But what I hear the most is moms saying, well, I can't go outside with them because I have so much work to do in the house. What I want to say to you is involve the kids, and then you can go out with them. So let's talk about what chores can look like, how we can help create a home culture around our chores that actually breathes life into the home and does not make us feel restricted and like we're always fighting with our kids to actually get these idyllic chores completed. So I'm going to go into the what and the how of chores a little bit later, but before we get there, I really want us to talk about why we want to have our children doing chores, and then kind of our own attitudes about chores that will actually help the whole project take off with success. First, we want to look at my opening quote. Meaningful work give children a sense of belonging. And this idea actually has pretty deep roots, and one of them can be found in the Little House on the Prairie series. Farmer Boy would be a really great one to look at for boys and girls, just to look at how they did their chores in the mid 1800s, and then what the children's attitude was about the chores. Almanzo was very proud of the work that he had to do, and he even looked forward to the work that he was going to get to do once he came the right age, once he got older. And this is actually something we've lost in our culture. We have kind of this idyllic view of childhood that it needs to be carefree and, they need to be frolicking in the fields all day long. Yes, we do want our children outside, but to divorce that idea from meaningful work is to not offer our children a whole life and not to be preparing them and giving them the habits in their childhood that will serve them well into adulthood. So this leads us to the next idea, which is that we want to be restoring order and we want to be cultivating beauty in our homes. And why is a beautiful church beautiful? Why do we walk into a huge sanctuary and it's lovely? What would it feel like if the priest or the pastor left just piles of books everywhere, or piles of papers on the pews, or, when people don't clean up after themselves after church and there's like a bit of a mess everywhere? What does that say about the space? So we can think about those things when we think about our homes and how we want it to feel and what memories we want our children to have of the home that they live in. We want their home memories to be fond. We want them to be peaceful. And it is peaceful when a room is tidy, when a bed is made. We're able to find things. We're able to actually use our time in a much better way because we can find things quickly, because we know where they are, because they are in order. And I think that this is an idea that we've really lost because we don't see the utility in it. We don't see how this is actually getting us to the goal for our children of, growing up, go to college, get a job, so you can provide for your family, so you can buy a bunch of stuff. If we're pursuing truth, goodness, and beauty, if we want a classical Charlotte Mason education for our children, then those utility things need to be put on the outside of what we're doing. There's a way that I can minister to my child as a person through the work that they're doing, that this work is sanctifying. It can allow them the opportunity to learn what it is to get in a flow, to kind of lose themselves in the work that they're doing. If you've ever had a project that you're working on, maybe you're purging, maybe you're trying to plan for a wedding, those types of things, you can really lose yourself in that project and the sense of time can go away. And this is the same for chores. Now, chores aren't maybe as exciting as a wedding, but there still is that sense of there's a lot of work, there's a lot of manual work that has to happen in order to have the result that you want, which is a beautiful space. And that leads us to the next idea, which is having that consistent effort over the long haul allows us to show that we can be faithful in the work that we're doing, and we're pulling our children into that faithfulness, that they can see there's not a one and done attitude toward the work. It's going to need to be done again tomorrow. We're going to get the clothes dirty, and then they're going to need to be washed, and then they'll need to be folded, and then they'll need to be put away. Why? Because we want clothes that we can find, and we also want to wear clothes when we go out in the world. Now, this is a different attitude from an attitude of perfectionism. There's like a rigidity about being perfectionist where it needs to be done now and it needs to be done in a certain way. If we don't have love, if we aren't looking at ordering our home in a way that is to bring our children into order, to cultivate that beauty, if we're doing it because we're anxious or we have a fear about it, then that will actually bleed into all of our attitudes. Perfectionism is not helpful because it raises the bar too high. We want to have some sobriety when we're looking at our chore systems. We want to understand what does need to be done, and then the things that aren't that important, we want to be able to set aside, or maybe some things can be done once a month or twice a month, and allowing those things to go, knowing that there will be order restored at some point. This leads us to our chore systems. So 2 rules I have for our chore systems. Rule number 1 is that mom is the chore manager. That means I am making sure it happens and I'm standing there. Like if we're doing kitchen chores, I'm running around, bustling, helping support the different functions. The youngest one might be, I might be their buddy, helping wipe down the table, making sure that they do it correctly. There's kind of a training component, but my presence is required while, especially in the training years. Once children get older and they've been trained enough, then you can send them to go do the thing, but don't do that unless you're going to inspect it. And that leads us to the principle of inspect what you expect. And this also goes not just for a chore that you're all kind of doing together, like the kitchen chores. But in the morning, we have morning chores where different people are getting up at different times and making beds and needing to do one of their morning responsibilities. And then I had to set a time right before breakfast that I'm checking their list and I am going through each person and inspecting what I've expected. And this is a new habit that I'm cultivating. I was trying to figure out how to peg that and how to be more faithful in my inspections. And what I found is the more that I do inspect, the more motivated the children are on their own to get the work done. So I'm still managing the chores in that way, but without that inspection and without that accountability, especially when it's new, then it's really easy for a child to just slip off and think, well, this isn't important. She's not even checking it. She doesn't even see it. Because they haven't embodied it that it is something valuable to do in its own merit, like making the bed. Okay, so now we understand what mom's role is. What are we delegating to the kids? And then how are we implementing these things? So I have broken up our home into 3 different kind of types of chores. We have 3 different types of chores. The first one is meal chores. These are chores that they do at mealtime. You're washing the dishes, you're sweeping the floor, you're wiping down the table, you're scrubbing the dishes, you're putting the food away. You know, just kind of trying to have a framework for who's helping with what, and then it's the same assignment Each day, everyone knows exactly what their responsibility is. I can train it once, and then we keep it for like a year until people are ready to move up or want to switch. The next type of chore are our morning and afternoon chores. We have a chore that everybody does before breakfast, and then we have a chore that everyone does in the afternoons before they can go off and play. The older ones have like 2 chores, the younger ones have 1, and these types of chores are wiping down the walls, unloading the dishwasher, I have one child dusting different rooms of the house on different days of the week. We have a bathroom cleaning chore at this time, and then a vacuuming chore. So all of these different chores are things that need to happen every day, especially in a large family, or especially if you're home all day. Vacuuming and bathroom work really just has to happen. And so those are kind of the household maintenance chores. And then I have a third category, and that is just your morning routine and just your daily responsibilities that you have. And it's not exactly chores, but like brushing hair and making bed and cleaning up room. I mean, there's kind of some chores in there, but those are kind of in their own category because they're more just what the child needs to take care of the things that they get messy, their bed, their clothes, their body, versus the things that the whole house needs to be in order, like vacuuming and tidying a room that's not their bedroom, if that makes sense. And then I put laundry in its own category because now we have days of the week that children are assigned. Like the boys have 2 days a week and the girls have 2 days a week that they're doing laundry. And then that has been a good rhythm. 3 people per grouping, essentially, and then I get the other 2 days of the week, and then we don't do laundry on Sundays. A few tips about chores. When I'm able to go through and actually do all the chores myself and really get a sense for what the work is that needs to be done there. So like cleaning the bathroom, what are my expectations here? So I'll clean a bathroom for a while and try to figure out, okay, what are the checkpoints? What are the things I really need? Especially if you're new in a home, there's different systems that need to be done. Like we added sweeping the stairs in this new home because they would get real dusty. It's things of that nature that we just need to, as the home manager, do ourselves so that then we can share that knowledge and then coach our child on that chore. And the other thing is to think about it as a partnership, not as I am the taskmaster and you will obey. If a child is having a hard time obeying, then you can join them and be a team with them while you're training, and it will pay off. They will start to learn how to do it, and then also learn that you're expecting that work from them. And a lot of that is just our attitude toward the work. Is this something that we value, or is it something that we see as a drudgery, and then it's like you don't even have to tell them that that's your attitude. They just get it in the air that that's how you see it, and then they essentially will say the words that is in your heart, is how parenting works. We want to also think about how many things we have in our home so that it's easier for our children to take care of them. If the room has too many toys, if the room isn't easily reordered, then either you can get rid of things. Sometimes I'll just take stuff and box it and put it away for a while and just see if they don't need it. This is really helpful, especially before a holiday, to try to really just get rid of things. There's always toys and well-meaning supplies coming in from grandparents, and trying to figure out how we're going to organize that. When children have an ordered space, they can be a lot more creative in their play because they can find things and then things are grouped together. And they love that. It really helps to foster their sense of creativity, which actually is what, when your home is fully ordered, will do for everyone. It won't just give you freedom. It won't just allow you to get outside with your children or pick up that book you wanted to read, but everyone you will find starts to have other activities they want to be doing. So hopefully these have given you some encouraging ideas as you bear down for the long haul. Having an ordered home really does help with homeschooling, because when your space is organized, it allows your brain to be restful and have a lot of delight when we're learning new things and trying to offer our children an education that we ourselves did not have. I hope this was helpful, and don't forget to check out that download below, and I'll see you next time.